Hi, and welcome to the little apartment on the prairie. I thought today I'd try doing kind of a day in the life post or video, just kind of what I do in a typical day. So it's almost 10 o'clock, which is kind of late to start my day. I've actually been up since almost 7. But I have a kitten who I believe is going into heat. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she starts pacing around the house yowling. So I didn't get enough sleep, and I'm tired and off to a slow start. So I just came in from walking Isaac, and now I'm getting ready to knead some bread dough. Come here, Isaac. You need a treat in your Kong? He needs a treat. And I made this bread dough last night before I went to bed, and I let it rise for a while, and then I put plastic wrap over it and stuck it in the fridge because I wasn't staying up late enough to bake it last night. And my house is a mess, and you know, my house just is a mess, and I could have cleaned it up for you, and this is real life, you know. My table's a mess. I need to clean it off. I need to clean the blades of my ceiling fan, which is above my table. And I don't want to dust them when I have crap all over my table because it's going to make, you know, it's going to get everything dusty. So I'm going to have to clean off the table. It's just such a convenient place to pile stuff. So I'm going to knead the bread dough and shape it into loaves and put it in my bread pans. I still got a bit of a cough. I've got a glove on one hand because I cut my finger slicing an orange last week. And so I've got Band-Aids over it. It was a pretty deep cut. And if I take the Band-Aids off and I start like washing dishes or something, it makes it start bleeding again, or it did. So I don't want my cut to get germs in my bread, and then I don't want my germy Band-Aid to stick to my bread dough or get germs in my bread. So I just put a glove on it. I use latex gloves sometimes around the house. I know they're not really environmentally friendly. Reusable gloves would be better, but like I'm not going to need bread dough with a reusable glove that I use when I'm mopping my floor or something, right? So it's one of those things that sometimes there's not a good alternative for, and you just do the best you can. I feel the same with Band-Aids, depending upon the injury. Sometimes I just tie a strip of cloth around it as a bandage instead of using a Band-Aid. But that wasn't really working well on this finger, especially when I needed to actually do things with that hand. It's the same with washing dishes. Washing dishes made it start bleeding again, so I put the Band-Aid on and then wear a glove. And I've been reusing the same glove. Not the one I have on now, but a different one for washing dishes. But for kneading bread, I've got a clean glove. And then I'll reuse this glove later for washing dishes or whatever. So I make homemade sourdough bread. I do it usually a couple times a week. It's kind of my thing. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. And in the beginning, it was one of those things that it was like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work to do all the time. And now it's not. It takes a lot of time to rise, but it doesn't take me long to mix up the dough. It doesn't take me long to knead it and make it into loaves. One batch makes 2 loaves of bread. The ingredients are flour, water, sourdough starter. I add a little bit of yeast. I could get away without the yeast, but it makes it rise more consistently for me. 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And that's all. So it's a really simple, easy bread dough. I'm going to do a video on how I make it on the recipe, and I'll include information on how to make the starter. I've had the starter now for almost 2 years. And sourdough seems real intimidating to some people, but man, once you get started and you get used to it, it becomes pretty easy. You learn how it works. The temperature in the house, even the humidity in the house, you know, the weather, all affects how it rises. So sometimes it rises in an hour, sometimes it takes it 3 hours. You know, you got to be patient with it, but but that doesn't mean it's difficult to do. You just get used to it, you learn about it. And I read something really interesting where they looked at a bunch of sourdough breads from different bakers, and they check like the yeast that's on your skin, because we all have yeast that just lives on our skin. It's supposed to be there. And they found that the bread, even if you start out with the same starter, if I gave you some starter, after you made bread with it for a while, it would start having some different yeasts than my bread has. It would pick up your own, like your own yeast. You put yourself in the bread. That sounds kind of gross, but it's not gross. It's normal, natural. It's how it works. It's, you know, the bread, it becomes your own unique bread. So, all right, here we go. There's the bread in the bread pans. I'm going to cover it up. I have this cloth that I use all the time for my bread, and I'm going to let it rise. It'll probably rise for a couple hours, and then it'll go in the oven. And now I'm on to my next task. So my next task for the day is going to be to start some laundry, and I use a homemade laundry detergent. Keep it in my bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket. Put a cup in a glass jar like this, and use about a cup, well, a half a cup to a cup per load. And my 5-gallon bucket of homemade laundry detergent lasts me about 6 months. Obviously, I live alone. If I had a family, it wouldn't last as long. It looks kind of goopy, sort of like snot. It works well. My apartment building has a washer and dryer in the basement. On the first floor, I mean. I hardly ever use the dryer because I usually hang my clothes to dry. But I do use the washing machine. I have a little portable foot-powered washing machine, and I'm going to do a video showing you that because it's cool. But I only use that for small loads or certain things. So today I'm going to go put a whole load in the washing machine in the basement. I'm going to start the washer. Let it run for a minute while we get the soap. Get some laundry done. I like to get it done early so at least some of it can be dry by the end of the day since I hang it to dry. Got a bag of rags that goes in there. And then the rest of my laundry. You all know how to do laundry. It's one of those boring things you gotta do. I do about twice a week because I hang my clothes to dry, and that's about how much space I have for drying clothes. It's about 1 load's worth. So I can't do more than a load in a day. So while my laundry's washing, I'm going to tidy up around the house a little bit, but I'm also going to make a couple phone calls. So now I'm going to hang my laundry up, and I think you can see, I have put 2 extra bars over my bathtub. They're just those expandable, adjustable shower curtain rods. And it works out so well for hanging laundry. Because I live in an apartment, my landlord won't let me put a clothesline outside, which is what I would really like to do. So I bought these bars several years ago, and I think they were $3 a piece. And so that was $6, and I think I was paying $1.50 per load for the dryer at that time. So with just 4 loads of laundry not having to go in the dryer, like they paid for themselves. And I also hang stuff over like my towel bars and over the backs of some chairs and stuff like that. One of these days I'd really like to talk the landlord into putting up clotheslines, but you know, landlords just don't like that. And I'll tell you why they don't like it. It's because of General Electric. Back in the 40s or 50s, when most people did not have electric dryers or gas-powered dryers, and that kind of stuff started being manufactured and really heavily marketed GE made a big point of telling people that clotheslines were ugly and unattractive, and basically indicated that you were poor, that you were low class, you know, and it was way better to have an indoor dryer and have it just dry your laundry for you. And Ronald Reagan, way before he was president, when he was a TV actor, was in a bunch of these commercials by GE and his whole family, telling people that they should get a dryer and not hang stuff on clotheslines. And they did a wonderful marketing campaign. People bought it. Bought the idea that we shouldn't have clotheslines, and bought the idea that we should have dryers. And that's why in the US you see so few clotheslines today, whereas in many other countries it's really common to have clotheslines, and people don't have dryers, or they only use them during inclement weather. If you're in a cold area, maybe it's hard to dry things outside, but we have GE to thank for that. They did a great job convincing people that dryers were bad. I mean, that clotheslines were bad. Clotheslines were bad, dryers are good. Oh, I got this big sheet, I forgot. There's these clothesline bars, that's what I'm talking about, work really well for hanging things like sheets that take up a lot of space. Because you can hang a pillowcase over the back of a chair, but your sheet's not really going to be able to be spread out and get dry. So one of the things, I really enjoy hanging my laundry. It's one of the chores that I like doing, you know, mopping my floor, I do not like doing. Hanging my clothes to dry, I like it. I'd like it more if I could do it outside, but I do enjoy doing it inside. When I'm done with this, I think I'm going to take Isaac for a walk. I'm going to do some dishes. And I think the kitten needs her ears cleaned. I think she's got ear mites. And let me tell you, she does not enjoy getting her ears cleaned. Well, I'm out walking Isaac, which is something I do several times a day, weather permitting. He loves to walk. I thought I'd just show you Isaac and a little bit of the outdoors. Here's the apartments where I live. You can kind of see we got a lot of snow. Some of it melted yesterday because it got up to like 40 degrees, but we still got some snow on the ground. It's been a fairly mild winter so far this year for a change. There you can kind of see that land over there in the summer. They let the plants grow, they hay it in the fall, and I pick a lot of herbs over there. I got a lot of mullein, I got coneflower over there last summer, and it's just kind of a little neighborhood I live in. Isaac and I come out here and walk, like I said, probably 3 or 4 times a day. Weather permitting, we probably walk a couple of miles a day altogether. We used to do one really long walk and then some shorter walks, but we're both getting older and we don't like to do 2 or 3 miles at once so much anymore. Here you can see it from another angle. We're on our way back from our walk. Kind of see there's the apartment building. There's some prairie. More prairie, some trees. On the other side of those trees there's some fields. I think there was corn in them this past year, and there's a school over there somewhere. But that's my building behind the little yellow play structure. Alright, so it is now about 11:15. I'm getting some dishes done. The bread is still rising. I'm going to bake it as soon as it's done rising and eat a slice right out of the oven with butter. That's what I usually do. It's kind of like my treat when the bread gets done. The laundry's done. It's drying. I've taken Isaac for 2 walks this morning. And I'm going to get some dishes done. I made some phone calls I needed to make. This is a pretty typical morning for me. You know, I don't make bread every day. I don't do laundry every day, obviously. But like tomorrow, I'm going to make yogurt. And Wednesday I've got some errands to run, but this is pretty typical. I spend the morning doing housework and, you know, paying bills or things like that if I need to do that. And then in the afternoon is usually when I do a little work on my YouTube if I need to. A couple times a month I'll run some big errands like to Lincoln, which is about an hour away. Other days, you know, I might need to go to the post office. Kitties, be nice. They're still fighting again. And then by dinner time, I'm usually ready to relax. Today I'm actually going to pick up my neighbor's kids at daycare. Daycare closes at 6, but she has to work till 7. So I'm going to pick the kids up at daycare and bring them home and watch them for an hour till she gets off work. And I won't film that because they're kids and, you know, I don't want to film them. But by dinner time, I'm usually ready to relax. I usually start my day early. I mean, I'm usually up sometime between 6 and 7 in the morning. And this morning, even though I was up, I was a little slow to get started, but this is pretty typical for me. Feel free to share in the comments kind of what your typical day is like. And if you have any questions, ask those, and I'll do my best to answer them. So it is now just a little bit afternoon, and I'm getting ready to feed Isaac his dinner. He gets his main dinner in the middle of the day, and he gets a smaller meal really early in the morning. For those of you that don't know, Isaac is on a premodel raw diet, which means he gets raw meat. He gets bones, meat, organs. He also usually gets a couple tablespoons of fruit or veg in his meal, just to give it a little filler because he really likes to eat. So today he's having spare ribs, beef heart, and some apples. He had some liver, some dried liver for a treat this morning, and he should be getting some kidney or another organ, but I've got to go to the butcher next week and pick that up. So he's missing a little component of his meal just for a few days. And I had a bowl of chili for my own lunch. I brushed Isaac's teeth and cleaned his ears, and I still haven't done the cat's ears. And there he is, enjoying his meal. Alright, so I am getting ready to put my bread in the oven. It took a long time to rise today. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It bakes for 25 minutes and I'm really hungry, so I'm looking forward to eating it. So it's about time for the bread to come out of the oven now. And I'll tell you, there's just nothing like fresh baked bread. It's one of my very favorite things. So here we go. You can see a loaf in the pan. I'll show you what it looks like when we cut it. Cut it, put some butter on it. I'm sorry, you're kind of looking at my behind right here. That's not so good, is it? Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like when I cut it and put some butter on it. One of the loaves came out a little smaller than the other. Sometimes that happens. But homemade sourdough bread, it's the best thing ever, honestly. It's fabulous. Got a big piece. Put some butter on it. I like real butter, not margarine. One of the things I want to start doing is making my own butter, but I haven't quite gotten around to that yet. Ouch, it's hot. It's best when it's hot, honestly. Look at that. Yeah. That's a terrible picture. Nice fresh bread. Delicious. I'm going to go enjoy my... So it's about 3:30 now. I've taken Isaac for another walk. I enjoyed a piece of my bread. I'm letting it cool now before I put the rest of it away. Did a bunch of dishes. It seems like a never-ending chore. The maintenance guy was here for a while doing some fixing a closet door in my bedroom, or trying to. Turned out he didn't have the part to get it back on the track, so he has to come back another day with the right part. And now I'm working on this sewing project. One of the things I use for myself, and I make and sell sometimes, mostly for friends, is cloth menstrual pads instead of using disposable pads. They're cloth. When they're finished, they have little snaps on the wings, and you fold them under, snap them under your underwear. They're reusable, washable. So I have a friend who asked for some weeks and weeks ago, and I'm way behind. Like, it was way before Christmas when she asked. It's the end of January now. It's crazy. I mean, it was way before Christmas, not after Christmas. I don't even know what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to work on this for a little while, and then I'm going to go take Isaac out one last time, and then go pick up my neighbor's kids from daycare, and I'll watch them for about an hour till she gets home from work. By this time of day, I'm kind of starting to wind down. I'm getting tired. I want to do something sitting down. And then by the time my neighbor gets home from work and gets her kids, I'm going to get something to eat, and I'm ready to go to bed early most nights. Especially today, because that stupid kitten in heat kept me up in the middle of the night. So I'm getting ready to leave now to go pick up my neighbor's kids at daycare. I've got to swing by her work and transfer their car seats out of her car into my car. She works just a couple minutes away from where I live, and then the daycare is a couple minutes further. So this will take me all of like 10 minutes to get the car seats and get the kids and get back home. I put away some of my laundry that was dry, some of it's still drying. I had a pair of jeans I had hanging in the bathroom, and I brought those out and hung them over the back of a kitchen chair, because sometimes they dry better out here. There's better air circulation than in the bathroom. And so I'm going to be watching the kids for an hour or so after that, and then I'm going to come home and relax. So it is about 8 o'clock. I am just about ready for bed. Got my little flannel nightgown on. It's nice and warm and comfortable. Picked up the kids for my neighbor, took them home, made them dinner, got them changed into their pajamas, so they were all ready for bed when Mom got home. I think I'm going to make a cup of tea. I already took Isaac out for the night, so I think I'm going to make a cup of tea and maybe catch up on a couple of my favorite YouTube channels, and then go to bed. I know it's still early. I mean, it's only 8 o'clock, but I go to bed early. I'm tired. Hopefully this kitten will not keep me up howling all night. And Isaac's already sleeping. I think both the cats are sleeping too. So it must be bedtime. I hope everyone has a good evening.